more flexible and generous so that workers can earn higher wages as businesses gradually open. This will truly improve the situations of Canadians in need and help place our economy on the path of recovery. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I thank the honourable member for the effort to respect the time. Il est maintenant temps pour les déclarations des députés.
It is now time for statements.
Montreal Sikh community, inspired by the tenets of the religious tradition established by Guru Nanak, places the highest priority on the values of sharing and helping others. These values are lived out every Sunday in Gurdwaras through Langar community kitchens. They have also been in clear evidence during the pandemic. The Sikh community of Montreal has provided over 63,000 individually packaged snacks to healthcare workers at the Montreal General Hospital, the Centre Hospitalier de l'Université de Montréal, the Jewish General Hospital, and to staff in seniors' homes. It has also provided 450 hot meals to staff in the Jewish General's ICU and emergency department. The community has donated over $13,000 to both l'Hôpital du Sacré-Cœur de Montréal and the Lakeshore General Hospital for essential equipment. To members of Montreal's Sikh community, we thank you for your generosity and inspiring example.
Very good. The honourable member for Prince George, Piss River, Northern Rockies.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. 2 weeks ago, I was honoured to speak to a group of recreational fishermen and women at the Public Fishery Alliance rally in Vancouver. Special thanks to organizers Peter Cron, Dave Brown, Fred Helmer, and Chris Boss, and many others. According to Phil Morlock of the Canadian Sport Fishing Industry Association, more than 8 million of us fish recreationally every year and spend $10 billion annually. And yet we have a federal government bent on shutting us down. The PM and Fisheries and Oceans Minister must stop punishing British Columbians for their failures. Their June 19, 2020 decision to further restrict fishing opportunity is another blow to British Columbians and communities. Their 2020 Fraser-Chinook plan ignored viable, balanced proposals and ignored input from experts with years of experience that would have upheld conservation values while providing public fishing opportunity. Instead of acting on measures that could make a real difference to restoring fish stocks, they have scapegoated BC anglers just trying to put food on their tables. The Prime Minister and Minister need to remember, we fish, we hunt, and we vote.
The Honourable Member for Laval-Les-Îles. Madam Speaker, I rise today to vigorously condemn Azerbaijan's unsanctioned aggression against the Republic of Armenia, which led to serious tensions last week along the border between Armenia and Azerbaijan. The horrors of this tension are being experienced here, in my riding, and throughout the Armenian community in Canada.
During the pandemic, ignoring UN call for a ceasefire during the pandemic backed by Turkey, threatened to bomb a nuclear power plant in Armenia, destroyed PPE factory that was producing essential equipment for Armenia fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, and intentionally targeted innocent civilians. I joined the Foreign Affairs Minister in his call for an immediate ceasefire. Nous devons toujours rester vigilants.
We must always remain vigilant and condemn all aggression toward the international community, especially during this difficult period. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
L'honorable député de Manicouagan.
Madame la Présidente, la population...
The Honourable Member for Manicouagan. Madam Speaker, people living in the regions of Quebec have once again been taken hostage by Air Canada and the government's inaction. Since the 30th of June, we have learned that Air Canada, which is significantly subsidized by the federal government with taxpayer money, has decided to indefinitely suspend 30 regional routes which were creating links in the regions of Quebec, and to permanently close service centers in the east of Quebec, for example in Gaspé, Montjoly, and in my riding. Since this announcement, the government has not shown any leadership to support Quebec, even though Quebec is looking for solutions. Even the Minister of National Revenue, the member for Gaspésie-les-Îles-de-la-Madeleine, who is seeing her constituents hit hard by Air Canada's blackmail, hasn't said anything. This eloquent silence characterizes the government's lack of action in the file. Since the announcement, the Bloc Québécois has been supporting a consensus of people who live in the regions, mayors, officials, and the government of Quebec. It is time for the federal government to support durable solutions so that the regions not be cut off from major centers as they are currently. Mr. Speaker, the economic vitality of Quebec's regions is at stake. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Davenport will go on. L'honorable député de Beauce.
Monsieur le Président, les Grands Prix du tourisme de la...
Thank you very much. I would like to congratulate the recipients of tourism prizes in my riding, the Marlande Sainte-Marie Blueberry Farm and the Saint Paul de Comelin Church, as well as the Harbor Gardens of Saint-Simon-les-Mines, in the innovative initiatives and tourist attractions, history, arts, and culture categories. I would also like to seize the opportunity to invite you to visit Beauce this summer and visit the Beauce Parkway, which goes along the beautiful Chaudière River. You will see that this is a magnificent region. In Beauce, there is the word beau, beautiful. That shouldn't be forgotten. And I would also like to congratulate the Destination Beauce team, which has done a lot of work to promote our region. And without wanting to offend any of my colleagues, I would say Beauce is the most beautiful region in Canada. I will look forward to seeing you there.
L'honorable député de Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to take this moment to reflect on a vulnerable segment of our population that has seen its situation getting worse during the pandemic, victims of violence. Extreme isolation has caused an increase in domestic violence and child abuse. In the past months, we have seen news of the worst outbreaks of atrocities against children across Canada. Pendant le confinement, les femmes victimes de violences.
During the lockdown, women who are victims of domestic violence have had to remain with their abuser because they haven't been able to go to shelters. I would like to tell the victims that they are not alone. There are resources that are at your disposal, and many of them are posted on our government's website. Let us not forget the collateral victims of COVID-19. Let us pursue our efforts to avoid further family tragedies. As members of this society, we must continue to remain proactive and not let anyone fall through the cracks. Thank you very much. The Honourable Member for Gatineau. Thank you. The National Capital Commission recently unveiled its highly expected studies on a 6th interprovincial link between Gatineau and Ottawa. So this is a further step towards the realization of the project. And we know that the project will meet the current needs and future challenges. One of these challenges is the increase in the demographics of our region, as well as the end of the Alexandra Bridge's useful life and the limits of the Chaudière Bridge. Having the 6th link will also enable further development, including sustainable mobility, as well as active transport like bike lanes, and bringing together communities all along the Outaouais River. People living in Gatineau have been waiting for this for decades. Now, today, we must take action.
Member for Saskatoon-Brestwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are blessed to live in a country that is governed by democracy. Though we often disagree, Canadians can trust that the will of the people continues to drive decision-making in our country. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said about the people of Hong Kong, including the approximate 300,000 Canadians that are currently living there. As new so-called national security laws sound the death knell for freedom and democracy there, police forces are raiding the offices of pro-democracy groups and censoring anyone who dissents. We cannot stand idly by as the Chinese Communist Party wages war against freedom and democracy. Canada must stand beside those brave women and men who are fighting back against dictatorship in Hong Kong. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Orléans.
How amazing our graduate did this year. And today I wanted to highlight 2 of the 2020 graduates in Orléans who has earned awards for their outstanding dedication and academic excellence. Please join me in congratulating Kinsley Jura from St. Peter's High School, who won the Lawrence Scholars Foundation Awards worth about $100,000. Et Angéline Lafleur.
and Angeline Lafleur, who recently graduated from the Garneau Catholic High School, who received 2 scholarships totaling $105,000.
So, as we are now well into our warmest time of year, one of my favorite summer traditions is to visit our local farms and market, and to pick up my own fruits, or to bring baskets of local goods home. Je suis privilégiée de
It's a privilege to have in my riding 5 local markets. I would like to thank Prou Farms, Orleans Farms, the Nav and Little Market, Just Food, and the Orleans Farmers Market for all their incredible work. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Bow River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government's fiscal snapshot revealed they're running a deficit of $343 billion this year, and for the first time, the net debt will reach $1 trillion and over. I've spoken to my constituents across my wondering where'd all that money gone? Many fell through the cracks and couldn't qualify for benefits that might have saved their livelihood and businesses. Many of these gaps could have been addressed without substantial cost if the government had bothered to listen to the Conservatives instead of shutting down Parliament. Spending enormous amounts of money and keeping our economy on life support is not a recovery plan. It will not fix record unemployment. I've spoken with business owners across my riding. They're ready to create jobs, prosperity again. They will tell me they need to give Canadians incentives to work, not punish and disincentivize productivity. Get our energy sector firing, support our agriculture producers and supply chain, lower taxes. That's a recovery plan, not spiraling debt and deficits.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
A member of this place once said, and I quote, "It's hard not to feel disappointment in your government when every day there is a new scandal," end quote. These are the words of the current Prime Minister, a sentiment that is shared now by many across this country. We are standing at a precipice, a day of choosing. Will the Prime Minister choose to recommit to his 2014 goal of restoring trust in Canada's democracy, or will he continue to evade accountability, keep Parliament shut down, and only answer questions if and when he deems them important? Will the Prime Minister appear before the committee? Will he answer opposition questions? Or will he choose to take personal days when it's inconvenient to face the music? The Prime Minister can bury his head in the sand, he can ignore the public demand for transparency, or he can lead the way in openness and accountability by following his own advice to let the sun shine in. After all, we've been told that sunlight is in fact the best disinfectant. What will he choose?
L'Honorable Député de Rosemont-la-Petite.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. In June, millions of workers were on the edge of a cliff because of the upcoming end of CERB. Thanks to NDP pressures, that direct assistance was extended for the summer. But August is coming up, and several economic sectors are not going to see a recovery anytime soon. Specifically, in the area of arts and culture, creators are very concerned because they know they might not be able to go back to work. A few days ago, 75,000 people from the cultural sector signed a letter asking for a guaranteed minimum income for artists, artisan, and craftspeople. We are asking the Liberals to listen to this and to come up with solutions quickly, because inaction could lead to irreparable harm. We want that the men and women of the theater, arts, literature, music, and audiovisual, we want them to be able to continue their careers and make money from their art, because above and beyond jobs, these works define who we are and nourish our collective soul.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Beaucoup d'aînés vivent dans une...
Thank you very much. Many of our seniors are in a precarious situation. That is why the Bloc Québécois has been asking for an increase in the OAS and GIS for some time. The pandemic has made this economic situation worse because our seniors have been affected severely by the effects of the lockdown and by an increase in all sorts of prices for medication, rent, groceries, and transportation. Since last week, seniors have finally received some support for the pandemic. $300 for those who are only receiving OAS and $200 for those who also receive the guaranteed income supplement. The only issue, Mr. Speaker, is that this is just a one-time payment. This assistance should become permanent. The government needs to keep its own election promise and increase OAS and the GIS. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc Québécois will support the government if it decides to go forward with this. It is time for the government to understand that our seniors should not have to choose between their food and their medication. Thank you.
Red Deer Lacombe.
The outlook wasn't brilliant for Canadians that day. The debt stood at $1.2 trillion and we lost our AAA. And when democracy died at first and ethics did the same, a sickly silence fell upon the voters of the game. The PM took a holiday with carefree wink and smile and treated family, friends, and donors to billionaire aisle. And when the dust had settled and we saw the very worst, the ethics commissioner said, "Strike one. You may not go to first." With a smile of great charity, the PM's eyes did gleam. He pressured the AG. He bade her to intervene. And when she wouldn't do it, he said, "That simply will not do. Lavalin means many votes." And the commissioner said, "Strike two." A few straggling lips got up to go in deep despair. The rest clung to hope and the Prime Minister's great hair. Then the PM saw 900 mil, a way to help connected friends. And we all knew the PM would not let opportunity pass by again. Oh, somewhere in this favored land, the sun is shining bright. The taxes are much lower and the government does what's right. And somewhere there are pipelines and jobs are all about. But for you and me and the greater we, our Prime Minister just struck out.
The honourable member for Hull-Aylmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to join my voice to the numerous tributes to the extraordinary life of the American congressional representative John Lewis. Mr. Lewis died last Friday at the age of 80. He first entered the public scene in the early 1960s as a founder and leader of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee at the tender age of 21. A lifelong practitioner of the Gandhian doctrine of nonviolence, John Lewis and his colleagues put the brutality of racism in high relief by placing themselves at risk through nonviolent actions. Mr. Lewis was one of the original freedom fighters in 1961, freedom riders rather, in 1961. He took part in activities which he knew beforehand would lead to his being clubbed, beaten, gassed, arrested, and run a much higher risk of being killed. Mr. Lewis was one of the speakers at the March of Washington in 1963. He was in the front lines of Bloody Sunday, the 1965 march in Selma, Alabama. Author, activist, politician, conscience of the U.S. Congress, John Lewis inspired generations of people around the world, including me. Thank you, Mr. Lewis, for living the life worth living. Rest in peace.
The honourable member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, my riding of Davenport will be home to one of the new modular housing initiatives being built across Toronto through a partnership between the City of Toronto and the federal government, with the goal of providing stable, affordable, high-quality housing and support services to individuals experiencing homelessness in Toronto. The Modular Housing Initiative will quickly create 100 modular homes by September 2020 and an additional 150 by spring 2021. At a total cost of almost $50 million, 40% will be supported by CMHC's Affordable Housing Innovation Fund. This project is a truly rapid, innovative, and cost-effective way of tackling housing issues in our cities. Not only is it a dignified response to supporting people experiencing homelessness, but the cost of modular housing with social service supports is half the cost of providing a simple shelter bed. Restarting the economy after COVID will take innovation and creative ideas, and modular housing should be a key addition to our infrastructure proposals as a model that can be multiplied across the city and country to house more of our vulnerable populations and supply affordable housing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear.
Before moving on, I just want to remind everyone that the SO31s are 60 seconds, not 65, not 70. And I just wanted to point that out because they seem to be crawling up, and I wouldn't want to cut anyone off when they've got something so important to them that they want to bring forward in an SO31. So just keep that in mind and time them so that when we come back next time, you'll be all ready. Oral questions, question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, for the third time, the Prime Minister is involved in a scandal. Once again, he thought that the rules don't apply to him. And he compensated an organization which has given members of his family $300,000. And an organization which gave the Prime Minister a huge political platform. Canadians have had enough. They want to know the truth. I have a simple yes or no question. Will the Prime Minister appear before the Finance Committee.
Honorable Premier Ministre.
Monsieur le Président, nous avons...
The Honorable Prime Minister, we have received the invitation, Mr. Speaker. We will consider it, and I'm very happy to be here today to answer questions. I will also be here tomorrow in the House so that the opposition members can ask me all the questions they wish. As I've already said, it was the independent public service that made the recommendation of the We charity to deliver opportunities to students. I should have recused myself from that discussion. I did not, and I'm sorry.
Le chef de l'opposition.
This isn't about just a simple recusal, Mr. Speaker. Here we have an organization that has paid cash to the Prime Minister's family and given him and other senior Liberals a massive political platform. That organization gets in trouble after gobbling up millions of dollars worth of prime Toronto real estate and breaking their bank covenant. They then lobby the government for a tailor-made program that they will be able to take an administration fee for managing. The government does them even better, comes up with an even bigger program, gives them a sole source contract, and the Prime Minister would have us all believe that this is a massive coincidence. Will the Prime Minister do the right thing, show up and testify at committee?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, during this unprecedented pandemic, we put out billions of dollars to support Canadians, young and old, workers, employers, and entrepreneurs, to make through this particular challenge that is hitting us all extremely hard. We put forward a $9 billion package for students that included deferral of student loans, that included direct support through jobs, through Canada Summer Jobs and jobs in COVID-affected sectors. We've continued to look for ways to encourage volunteerism. We will continue to stay focused on the things that matter to students and to all Canadians.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
So gross and disgusting that this Prime Minister keeps using the pandemic as an excuse for his corruption. The very first act that this Prime Minister did when the pandemic hit was try to give himself unprecedented power and eliminate the role of the opposition in Parliament. And now we know why, Mr. Speaker, because when they're pushing $300 billion worth of deficit out the door, they will stop and take the time to reward their friends. That is the essence of this Liberal Party under this Liberal Prime Minister. I don't even have a question, Mr. Speaker. It's just disgusting.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, one would think that when a House of Commons is about to pass legislation worth over $50 billion to help businesses with an extension of the wage subsidy, that there might be a question from the opposition on that or on anything they want to bring forward. The fact of the matter is we remain focused on giving Canadians the support they need to get through this challenging pandemic. We will look creatively, we will look carefully at different ways of supporting students and elders, and we will keep doing that, Mr. Speaker, for all Canadians.
The Leader of the Opposition.
That's right, Mr. Speaker. Nothing to see here. Just move on. Don't ask any of the tough questions. Tough questions about the relationship with an organization that paid members of his family cash, that took administration fees for running sole source government contracts after breaking their bank covenants and having members of their board resign. Now, the Prime Minister is trying to hide behind the public service on this one, but I'd like to ask him a very simple question. On what basis would the public service have made their recommendation that we was the only organization that could deliver this program?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, when we came forward with the idea of supporting young people who would want to be involved and serve their community across the country, we as a government came forward and looked to see young people serving their country. The public service took a look at the ways they could deliver that program and determined that the We organization was the only one that could deliver that program as ambitious as it was for this summer. That was the recommendation made by the nonpartisan public service. Of course, as I apologized for, I should have recused myself because of the connection with the families, but that doesn't take away from the fact that the public service recommended that organization.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, here's what the Charity Intelligence Watchdog said about that claim. Quote, I'm not sure how you would assess the charity's track record or capability to do this if they had not previously done such work in the past. His explanation just doesn't hold up. But there are two camps developing in the Liberal Party, Mr. Speaker. On the one hand, we have the Foreign Affairs Minister, who wisely took a barge pole and separated himself from the scandal, saying that it was a mistake and he didn't know anything about it. Then we have the Deputy Prime Minister, who had no problem showing Liberal faithful that she was willing to defend her leader. I would ask the Deputy Prime Minister, what would it take for her to lose confidence in the scandal-plagued Prime Minister?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, every step of the way, our government has been looking to support Canadians through this unprecedented pandemic. Yes, we put out tens of billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars into the pockets of Canadians, workers, families, entrepreneurs, people working all across the country who were challenged with this pandemic. And we looked for ways to support students as well, through some summer jobs, through creating new jobs in various industries, but also through encouraging volunteerism and service to this country. We will continue to look to ways to support Canadians right across the country through this difficult time.
The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Am I bothering anyone? Mr. Speaker, a little while ago, we had a distracting exchange with the Prime Minister with regard to the problems of the Liberal Party and the necessity of the party to improve the wage subsidy. And yesterday in committee, one Liberal MP said that his party or her party was having problems. That's true. Not necessarily for financial reasons, but there are problems. And I think it's because the Prime Minister is crushed under the burden of files which have nothing to do with helping Canadians. Is there any way the Liberal Party will renounce the wage subsidy program? I'd like to reassure the honourable member that the work this government is doing is still focused 100% on Canadians, be it the Safe Restart program with $19 billion going to the provinces and territories, which was signed last week, or the $50 billion for the wage subsidy program, which we are going to pass today in this House. This government will remain focused on the work it must do for Canadians every single day, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, you cannot buy your way out of a crisis. Buying a lot does not mean purchasing well. The Prime Minister clearly is very preoccupied, perhaps too preoccupied with other things which have nothing to do with managing this crisis, without presuming of the result of all the investigations of the committees. Should the Prime Minister not temporarily, because clearly he is thinking of other things, step aside for the Deputy Prime Minister to replace him? Mr. Speaker, as I said last week, we signed a historic agreement with the provinces on a safe restart for the economy. And today we are making available more help for businesses. $50 billion will go to businesses with the wage subsidy program. Despite the opposition focusing on one issue in particular, we are working on the issues Canadians care about, and we will keep on delivering support every day for Canadians. The honourable member for Burnaby South. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister has close connections with the We Charity. That's obvious. So why did the Prime Minister not recuse himself when the decision was made to award nearly $1 billion to the We Charity? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as government, we are there to help young people, seniors, workers, families throughout this crisis. We wanted to help students by creating service opportunities for them, and the Public Service made a recommendation. They recommended that the We Charity be chosen to deliver all of these opportunities for young people across the country. We agreed to the recommendation. Indeed, and I apologize, I should have recused myself because of those connections between my family and the charity.
South.
But apologizing means nothing if the Prime Minister keeps on breaking the rules to help his wealthy friends. Here are the facts. The Prime Minister's family has earned over $300,000 in speaking fees from this organization. We has said that they don't actually normally pay speakers a fee. Now, on top of that, giving $1 billion to create a brand new program makes no sense when there's so many existing ways to help students that are faster and are proven. So will the Prime Minister admit that this was never about helping students and always about helping his wealthy friends?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's a shame to see such cynicism from the NDP in regards to supporting students. We put forward a $9 billion package for students. It included deferral of student loans, creation of new jobs in sectors affected by COVID, enhancing the summer jobs program, and many other things to support students and student organizations. On top of that, we saw an opportunity to encourage service and volunteerism and create opportunities for tens of thousands of young people who want to step up during this pandemic. This is something we believe in deeply and something that this government will continue to work on.
Honourable Member for Barrie Innisfil.
Well, what's disgusting about the WE scandal is that the Prime Minister's wife, mother, and brother were paid hundreds of thousands of dollars by WE, and then knowing this, the Prime Minister doesn't recuse himself from the decision to give WE $912 million. Now, I'm sure the Prime Minister is grateful that the Deputy Prime Minister proclaims she still has confidence in him, while other ministers, like the Minister of Global Affairs, is doing everything he can to distance himself from the PM's latest ethical scandal. Will the Minister of Public Services and Procurement tell us which cabinet camp is she in?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what's clear is that our government is focused on delivering for Canadians. We know that this is a very unprecedented and challenging time. We know that Canadians are struggling. We know that COVID-19 has impacted all Canadians and disproportionately certain communities, and students are no exception. When it comes to the investigation from the Conflict and Ethics Commissioner, we will be working with this office. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Barrie Innisfil.
Well, we already know what camp the Minister of Diversity, Inclusion, and Youth is in. But the Prime Minister's family was on the WE payroll when the decision was made by the Cabinet to award a sole source contract of $912 million. Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry. Which camp is he in? Is he in the camp of the Deputy Prime Minister's confidence in the Prime Minister, or is he in the camp of the Global Affairs Minister who is distancing himself from the Prime Minister's latest ethical scandal?
The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, our government's focus is clear. It's on Canadians and delivering for Canadians, and that's what we do on this side of the House. The Conservatives can choose to play their politics of division. That will not be our focus. We are in the midst of a pandemic. We are not out of the woods yet. We need to deliver for Canadians. That's exactly what we'll do. The $9 billion program, the suite of programs we put forward for students, was the right thing to do, and I think it's really great that we're talking about legislation today, debating legislation that's going to help small businesses, that's going to help communities, it's going to help people with disabilities. No matter the delay the Conservatives cause, we will remain focused on Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lobinière. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The close connection between the Prime Minister and the WE charity is giving off an odour of hypocrisy. The Prime Minister is under investigation by the Ethics Commissioner for the third time. Several ministers are becoming impatient. So, does the minister still trust the Prime Minister? Our government will keep on working for Canadians. We will make sure that they have the programs and the resources they need. With regard to the investigation, we will work with the Commissioner's office. Thank you. The member for Lévis-Lobinière. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister seems to be muzzling his own ministers. I would have liked the minister herself to answer. The Deputy PM still seems to be confident in the Prime Minister, but not the Foreign Affairs Minister. What about the Transportation Minister? Does he still trust the Prime Minister? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I said, we're in a crisis and we will keep on delivering for Canadians. We're going to make sure they have the programs and resources they need during the pandemic. We are all pulling together, and we will make sure that Canadians have what they need. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we've heard, the Prime Minister is being investigated now for a third time, this time for his $43 million bailout for his buddies at the WE organization. So he spent the last 5 years dividing Canadians, but now we're seeing the divide in his own caucus and in his cabinet. So some cabinet ministers have had enough of the Prime Minister, and I want to find out from the Infrastructure Minister, which side of the divide is she on?
The Honourable Minister for Diversity, Inclusion and Youth.
Mr. Speaker, it's clear that on this side of the House, our focus is on Canadians ensuring that they have the programs and resources that they need. We know that Canadians are struggling. We know that all Canadians have been impacted by COVID-19, and certain communities have been impacted even greater. And that's why our focus is on ensuring that Canadians have the supports they need, and that's why one of the first things we did was come out with the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. It has helped millions of Canadians in their time of need. Our government will continue to focus on them and ensure that they have the programs and resources to get through this challenging time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
Well, we know that the Minister for Diversity, Inclusion and Youth is where she sits on this issue. She was at committee last week and gave a misleading and incomplete answer in response to questions as part of the cover-up into this latest scandal. So as part of the Prime Minister muzzling his cabinet, she's back on her feet today. But we know the Deputy Prime Minister has come out in favor of the Prime Minister. We know that the Foreign Affairs Minister, not so much. So let's find out from the Liberals. Let's see how they've decided which team that they're on. To the Immigration Minister, is he with the Prime Minister's cover-up?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are in an unprecedented time, and Canadians are facing challenges, and our government is here to respond to them, and we will remain focused on them. As a Minister of Youth, I speak with numerous organizations. When I was asked to appear at committee, the first opportunity, I was there to ensure that questions were being answered. And as I have stated, it was an unsolicited proposal, and it was not the CSSG. The opposition member can continue to mislead Canadians. Unfortunately, we should demand better, and our government will focus on Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order.
We have a point of order coming. There's some, okay, wait a minute. There's no point of order during question period, but we cannot use foul language. Now, if you're going to call someone else a name, then the Speaker may call you out. I just want to point that out. And there's been some banter going back and forth. That's something that's acceptable within what goes on. It shouldn't exist at all. But calling someone a name is not allowed, as we've learned in the past. L'honorable député de Rivière.
The honourable member for Rivière-du-Nord. I have a colleague who must be very happy to hear her riding called out all the time. Now, Mr. Speaker, the more we're learning about the WE charity, the more it smells. We're being told that we would have received $19 million to manage a custom-tailored program, but then that amount rose to $43 million. They have no experience in managing volunteers, and we learned today that they are not doing well financially. Charity Intelligence says that they are bad managers. They have no experience managing volunteers. Could it be by coincidence that the only competencies WE Charity has is to have donated to the Liberal Party?
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I said before, our goal is to help Canadians because we realize we're in a pandemic and we face many challenges, as I said at the Finance Committee and elsewhere. We were given a recommendation by the Public Service. I accepted that recommendation, and at committee, I shared the details of the contribution. We shared that the Public Service had negotiated the contract with the WE Charity. I shared those details as asked on committee. The honourable member for Rivière-du-Nord. The apologies of the Prime Minister just don't cut it anymore. He is responsible and accountable for the decisions of his government. He announced the creation of this program, knowing full well that his family had connections with the charity. He just hoped that nobody would have noticed. Any way you look at it, ethically, this is indefensible. So, The Prime Minister has to be responsible and do the only thing left for him to do, which is to step aside and let the Deputy Prime Minister take over while the investigation unfolds. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, from the outset, from the start of this pandemic, we said we would be there for Canadians. Regarding students, we announced a certain number of measures. We announced a $9 billion support package for students, including the Canada Student Emergency Benefit, and we also announced bursaries for full-time and part-time students, and we imposed a 6-month moratorium on repaying student loans. With regard to the Ethics Commissioner, we will work with his office and make sure he has the answers he needs.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister can find $40 million for his friends and the WE organization who are struggling financially but can't do anything to help Alberta's oil and gas sector. The Finance Minister promised help within hours, but when his friends at WE need the help, he has no problem cutting them a check. It's always the same story with these Liberals. Help them get votes and you get the money. This government is corrupted. Where is the help for the Alberta oil and gas sector, Mr. Speaker?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, as we have said on a number of different occasions, we have intervened in the economy to help a number of different sectors. We have been unwavering in our support for all sectors across Canada, including the oil and gas sector, where we have put an unprecedented amount of money, Mr. Speaker, into cleaning up old and abandoned wells. This will create more jobs and more infrastructure development in that sector and help us move forward, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Saskatoon-Grasswood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, the Liberals refused to tell this House whether the Prime Minister's mother was paid to appear at a WE event on Parliament Hill in 2017. Over $1 million of taxpayer money was used for this event, and the Liberals owe Canadians the truth. Enough of this corruption. Yes or no? Was Margaret Trudeau paid to appear at the WE event on Parliament Hill, July 2nd, 2017?
The Honourable Minister for Canadian Heritage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We Charity was one of several organizations that have submitted a Canada 150 proposal to the Department of Canadian Heritage that was subsequently selected. The two Canada 150 contribution agreements between We Charity and the Department of Canadian Heritage were approved by the minister responsible at the time at the recommendation of department officials. Cabinet was not involved in the process of approval of these contribution agreements. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
Au-delà le plus de 300,000.
In addition to the over $300,000 that the Prime Minister's family received for giving speeches, how much did We Charity pay his family in terms of personal spending? How much? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I said, our government will continue to ensure that Canadians have everything they need during this pandemic. We know that the Ethics Commissioner is investigating. We're going to be working with his office. The members of the Finance Committee have asked me to testify, and I did so. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Carleton.
Was how much the Prime Minister's family has received in personal expenses paid by the We organization. We already know they received over $300,000 in so-called speaking fees. What we don't know is what additional personal expenses the organization paid for the family on top of that. So one more time, how much did the We organization or its affiliates pay in expenses for the Prime Minister and his family?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as we are in the House of Commons, we discuss and debate government business, and it's important that we remind Canadians, reassure Canadians that we will be here for them during this unprecedented and challenging time. It sounds like the member opposite has questions for the We organization. Those are great questions that he should ask the We organization. We on this side will say focus on Canadians, and if there's any questions in regards to government business, I look forward to responding to them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Hamilton, the Centre.
Mr. Speaker, like many Canadians, I would love nothing more than to provide our full attention on the COVID crisis at hand. But while people are worried about having enough money to make it to the end of the month, they see the Prime Minister and his Liberal cabinet focusing on helping themselves and their friends instead of people. There's alleged irregular lobbying, contracting, and pecuniary conflicts of interest related to the Prime Minister and the Liberal cabinet. Taking responsibility means holding accountability. This is the third time the Prime Minister is under an investigation for breaking the rules. What exactly has he learned?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our focus remains on ensuring that Canadians have the programs and resources that they need. I will remind the member that there are officers of Parliament. They are independent agents that do important work. We have the utmost respect for officers of Parliament to do that important work. We have been clear that we will work with his office to ensure that he has the answers he needs. He also knows that committee members of all parties, asked me to appear at the Finance Committee. I was there providing answers. They asked for officials to appear. Officials were also appearing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for London, Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, there is no economic recovery without childcare. Women and parents can't return to work if it means leaving their kids home alone. The Liberals missed the mark on their agreement with provinces and are treating childcare as a nice-to-have instead of a must-have. Experts, businesses, economists, and parents are clear. To go back to work, families need safe, reliable, and affordable childcare. Will the Liberals invest the $2.5 billion required this year to finally build a universal and affordable childcare program?
Honourable Minister for Families.
Monsieur le Président, I want to thank the Honourable Member for the important question. We're continuing with our investments in the amount of $7.5 billion over the next few years to continue to create safe, affordable, quality, and accessible childcare. We've created over 40,000 affordable childcare spaces for the most needy families in this country. We are going ahead with our bilateral agreements in the amount of $400 million to provinces and territories. And as part of the Safe Restart Agreement, Mr. Speaker, we are transferring to provinces and territories $625 million for a safe restart of the childcare sector, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Vimy.
Merci, Monsieur le.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Women play a tremendously important role in the Canadian labour market, and yet many women are struggling to go back to work because they must continue to assume responsibility to care for their children. We understand that without women returning to work, there will be no economic recovery after this pandemic. Mr. Speaker, what is this government doing to foster the availability of childcare services that are safe and affordable and that will allow Canadian women to get back to work? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, our government understands the immense pressure that COVID-19 is exerting on Canadian families, especially on women and parents. That is why we are investing over $7.5 billion, or rather, that is over the next decade that we'll be investing $7.5 billion in childcare services and early learning.
Calgary Shepherd.
The National PPE stockpile has existed since at least 1952. It holds ventilators, blankets, towels, PPE, antibiotics, and other essentials. And now, for security reasons, the Liberal government says we are forbidden from knowing how much PPE they had between 2016 and 2020 before the viral pandemic. I didn't realize it was a national security risk to ask the government how many towels they had in 2018. To the Health Minister, what is the security reason for not disclosing the past PPE stockpiles?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, our government's record on PPE, has been unequivocally clear and strong. The health and safety of our frontline healthcare workers is our top priority. We've been working with the provinces and territories, with industry and suppliers, and with other partners to ensure that we have enough PPE in Canada to protect healthcare professionals. The PHAC has issued guidance informed by frontline healthcare workers on when a health provider may need an N95 mask, and while it's up to each province and territory to provide instruction on the use of specific PPE, our guidance empowers workers to ask for the PPE they need to stay safe at work.
Honourable Member for Yorkton Melville.
Speaker, Veterans Affairs depends on our Legions to help with veterans' transitions. Legions also coordinate school visits, teaching our children about the cost of our freedom. For many, Legions are a safe place to find community. 157 Legions face a risk of permanent closure due to restrictions on their fundraising efforts, and there's been no flexibility to include them in the COVID-19 Economic Response Plan. The Minister of Veterans Affairs says we hope to have some more to say on this shortly. When did the Minister begin to think about the impact of the pandemic on Canada's Legions?
Minister for Middle Class Prosperity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We fully understand the vital role that Legions play in supporting our veterans and small communities across the country. Some of them have qualified for the Emergency Community Support Fund, but we know that not all of them do. As the Prime Minister indicated quite clearly, we are working on a solution to this, and I hope we'll have something to share very soon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Haldimand, Norfolk.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, a constituent of mine works an essential service every Sunday, unless there's a fifth Sunday in the month. If she works that, then she has to sacrifice her whole CERB payment because she'll have been paid a whopping $2 more than the limits allow. Now, that's just a dumb system, Mr. Speaker, but Conservatives believe that people should always be better off when they work. So we proposed a plan that would truly support Canadians as they get back to work. Why won't this government implement our common sense plan to support Canadians?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I take issue with characterizing the CERB as a dumb system when it's helped over 8 million Canadians, making sure that they have money to pay their rent and pay for food. We have worked extremely hard to evolve the CERB with the evolving state of this pandemic. We're continuing to do so. We are absolutely committed to make sure every Canadian has the support they need during this crisis.
The Honourable Member for Bow River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Business owners and employees in my riding are spending time and money every day juggling hours and changing schedules to accommodate CERB. Employees are forced to choose between working full-time, taking pay cut, or continuing part-time to keep their CERB. Business owners can't find enough staff to reopen, even stay open. Why won't this government stop disincentivizing productivity and make CERB more flexible by implementing the Conservative back-to-work plan?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, when CERB came into effect, we were asking Canadians to stay home. We are now encouraging Canadians to go back to work. That's why when we added weeks onto the CERB, we created new language in the attestation where Canadians are committing to seek out work opportunities, to take jobs when it's reasonable to do so. I have a lot more confidence in Canadians and their wanting to work, Mr. Speaker, than clearly the other side does.
The Honourable Member for Laurentides-Labelle. Mr. Speaker, we have a health care crisis to manage, a global pandemic, and the possibility of a second wave. All of us are having to deal with an international economic crisis and as well as a public finance crisis. The last thing we need is a leadership crisis at the head of this government. In the interests of everyone, will the Prime Minister step aside in favor of the Deputy Prime Minister during the investigation? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister has the full confidence of all the government, all the caucus. We're working to do better for all Canadians. We're trying to be here for those who are ill, for those who are looking after ill people, for our seniors, for persons with disabilities. And that is why we're here today with the support of everyone to make a real difference for all Quebecers and for all Canadians. And that's what the member should focus on. The Honourable Member for Laurentides-Labelle. Mr. Speaker, we're in the midst of summer. In Quebec, it's the construction holiday, and the House is sitting exceptionally because the COVID-19 crisis is forcing us to take swift action. And yet here we are embroiled in another Liberal scandal involving the Prime Minister because he is not trustworthy. We can see it because of his lack of ethical judgment. The Prime Minister, will he please step aside while the Commissioner investigates and thus allow the House to focus on the real issues linked to COVID-19? The Honourable Government House Leader. The real issues is that we were there when Canadians who needed it. We looked after people who lost their jobs. We looked after businesses when they needed aid with the wage subsidy. And the real issues is that we are here today for people with disabilities. We've been here for our seniors. Those are the real issues. The Prime Minister is working on this, and so is the entire government. Thank you. The honourable member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, on February 6th, I sent a letter to the Minister of Immigration decrying the wait times for foreign workers. In committee on May 22nd, he said that he would reply to me. With the pandemic, things have gotten worse. There are 15 businesses in my riding that are having trouble with immigration, and they wrote directly to the minister with no reply. On July 7th, I wrote to him personally to ask for another meeting, and again on July 13th, and I was told that this meeting would happen soon. Mr. Speaker, can the minister tell me how I must interpret this lack of response? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are committed to working with the Quebec government to find a way to recognize the important work done by these people. We had an approach that was very compassionate, that was very principled, and I am ready to work with my colleague. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, I left Sainte-Marie-de-Beauce at 4:30 in the morning to be in Ottawa to get down to work, to make progress, and to vote on an important bill for all Canadian business people. To my surprise, when I arrived, I learned that the Prime Minister, the very person who had summoned us to the House, had planned a personal day. Mr. Speaker, it's time for the Prime Minister to come back down to earth. Can he explain to us why he recalled the House, but at the same time took a personal day? Thank you. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, we recalled the House to look after people with disabilities. Mr. Speaker, we recalled the House to look after our businesses across the country. Mr. Speaker, we recalled the House so that the opposition could ask questions on burning issues. For example, what we are doing for our seniors, our children, for families and persons with disabilities. That's why we're here today, Mr. Speaker. We were here yesterday, we're here today, and we'll continue answering questions because we do our job.
Nipissing Pembroke.
Mr. Speaker, federal government contracts of $25,000 and more have to be tendered. Last year, before the election, the Prime Minister's own Privy Council office gave 2 sole-sourced contracts to We Charity, one in the amount of $24,996, the other one for just over $17,000. What were those contracts for? Why didn't the Prime Minister want Canadians to know about them? Did some of the money go to the Prime Minister's family or the finance ministers?
Good question.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as we are here responding to a global pandemic, which is also impacting Canadians from coast to coast to coast, we'll remain focused on Canadians. And when it comes to the member's exact question, I will make sure that we get her the information. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member Châteauguay-Lacolle. Mr. Speaker, in the weeks following the tragic death of George Floyd, the words Black Lives Matter mobilized thousands of people and millions of people even seeking justice globally and in Canada. Recently, our Prime Minister brought his cabinet together to address this important topic. We know how sensitive Canadians are to this issue. So can the Minister of Diversity, Inclusion and Youth tell us what we are doing here in Canada to fight racism? Thank you. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for Châteauguay-Lacolle for this question and for her vision for a more inclusive Canada. And our government shares that. Here are some examples. In 2018, Canada recognized the International Decade of Persons of African Ascendance, and we're working towards those goals. We also launched a support project in communities for young Black Canadians. And in addition, thanks to the Canadian strategy to fight racism, we now have a secretariat for fighting racism, including anti-Black racism. There is still a great deal to do, but our government will continue to work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Nippy Churchill River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today there are many long-term drinking water advisories still in place in both northern Saskatchewan and across many communities in Indigenous communities across the country. Men, women, children, and elders are living without safe water during a pandemic. Can the Prime Minister tell this House how many long-term drinking water advisories could have been lifted if the $43.5 million he committed to WE had been used for improving drinking water infrastructure rather than be earmarked for his Liberal-friendly organization that pays his family?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, all Canadians should have access to safe, clean, and reliable drinking water. As of March the 31st, 2020, more than $1.6 billion of targeted funding has been invested to support 619 water and wastewater projects, including 331 that are now completed. These projects will serve 462,000 people in 581 First Nations communities. Much work remains to be done, but the results are encouraging, with 88 long-term drinking waters advised lifted to date.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General has raised serious questions about the integrity of Canada's immigration system and the maintenance of public safety. She's itemised a backlog of 50,000 individuals ordered removed from Canada, illegal residents, unworthy asylum claimants, and criminals. And almost 35,000 of these have disappeared. Neither immigration nor border service officers have any idea where they are. Now, I know removals in the time of COVID are very difficult, but Mr. Speaker, shouldn't these two departments get their acts together and at least locate the 35,000 missing?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very proud of the work of this government with regards to our asylum system. We have made consistent investments to ensure that our borders have integrity and are protecting the health and safety of Canadians during this pandemic, and we will continue to make those investments which were cut under the last Conservative government when my honourable colleague was there to make those decisions. And on this side, we will continue to protect the health and safety of Canadians by investing in our asylum system. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Steveston, Richmond East.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Media reports the dictator-admiring PM-led government has hired a Chinese state-owned company, NewTek, to equip our embassies abroad with security equipment. In addition to raising grave security issues, this decision ignores the complicity of NewTek in the Chinese state's genocide of Uyghurs Muslims. NewTek, along with companies like Duhua and Hikvision, provided technological support for Chinese state mass atrocity. Why do we continue to see commercial cooperation between this government and companies who are complicit in genocide?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, as Canadians have had the chance to hear today, it would be good if the member on the other side would stop misleading Canadians, Mr. Speaker. I have been clear to Canadians yesterday that no purchase have been made under that agreement, Mr. Speaker. I've asked officials to give me all the facts and details. I've asked that we review our purchasing practices, and I've asked that we continue to improve the security and safety of our embassies around the world, Mr. Speaker. No purchase have been made under that contract.
Merci. Member for
Former teacher in two of Montreal's English school boards, I will always be there to support our official language minority communities. Since 2007, the Official Languages Committee, of which I'm a proud member, has worked with Statistics Canada and the government to ensure that quality information on minority language rights holders is collected to help inform evidence-based decision-making.
I was delighted to see that our study and our recommendations from the last parliamentary session helped and informed this process.
This House on new questions in the 2021 census regarding linguistic minorities. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for St. Laurent for her question and her diligent work on the Official Languages Committee.
Harper Conservatives who gutted the census, we worked with Statistics Canada to determine the best ways to collect better quality information on language right holders, veterans, Indigenous people, and many other groups. These new questions and other important changes will ensure that the information collected reflects Canada's changing society, addresses information gaps, and supports evidence-based decision-making.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, Thanks to the NDP, the CERB was extended, and that allowed millions of people to spend the summer with income. But in a few weeks, it'll all be over. In the arts and culture sector, this could be disastrous. If technicians, artists, and craftspeople are forced to switch careers, then the entire cultural industry could collapse. Those are not just jobs, Mr. Speaker. It's also our collective identity. What is the Liberals' plan to help the people in performing arts, living arts, to act before it's too late? The Honourable Minister of Heritage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague from Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie for his question and his advocacy for this issue. I would like to point out that since the beginning of the pandemic, our government has invested over $3 billion in the arts and culture sector across the country. And they have asked if we were asked to prolong the CERB. We did, and we made sure that artists could also receive this. And we've been there from the beginning for artists, and will continue to be there for them. Thank you.
For Fredericton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The pandemic is forcing us to rethink the world we live in, from food security to our workspaces and the impacts of systemic racism. As we continue to respond to the COVID-19 health crisis, we must not forget that the climate crisis is also a health crisis, an economic crisis, a social crisis. They are intricately connected, and our response requires that we build resilient communities that will be ready to adapt. Can the Minister of Environment and Climate Change explain how exactly the undeniable impact of the climate crisis will be taken into account in the upcoming budget and within the long-term post-pandemic recovery plan?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for her question and her abiding interest in protecting the environment and fighting climate change. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we are all united with other members and other Canadian citizens to fight climate change. It will be taken into account, Mr. Speaker, as we move forward. We realize that this is one of the fundamental existential issues of our time, Mr. Speaker, and in dealing with Canada as we build better moving forward, we will, in fact, continue to fight climate change.
And that's all the time we have today. C'est tout le temps qu'on a pour aujourd'hui pour les questions. Nous avons un appel au règlement.
A point of order. The honourable member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, for workers with a serious illness, I would like to get unanimous consent on the motion that follows, that notwithstanding any standing order or usual practice of the House, Bill C-242, a bill to modify the Employment Insurance Act, be deemed read a second time and referred to a committee of the whole, deemed to be the object of a report without amendment, deemed adopted at report stage, and deemed read a third time and passed.
L'honorable député a-t-elle le consentement unanime de la Chambre?
Does the honourable member have unanimous consent to move the motion? No. There is no unanimous consent, I'm sorry. And now...
Order, the honourable member for Burnaby South.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there has been discussion between the parties, and I think